The IMF has also retained India's growth forecast at 6.1%, the resilient domestic demand despite external headwinds in India. So it's going to be the fastest growing, Gargi, according to the IMF.
Right, the IMF has said that India is the fastest growing country among advanced, emerging and developing economies, and the top economist has said that India remains a bright spot. Well, let's go across to Priyanshi for more on this. And Priyanshi, that's some good news on the economy. The IMF saying that India remains a bright spot.
Absolutely, Gargi. It is good news, and it's the first time, in fact, in a year that the IMF has increased the global growth forecast. For the last year, there have been multiple forecasts, but they had only downgraded the global growth figure for the current year. But this time, they've increased it by 0.2 percentage points. Earlier, the growth forecast was 2.7%, but that has now been hiked to 2.9%. But it's important to mention here that the 2023 growth forecast, which is now at 2.9%, it is still not a normal figure, if I may call it so. In the current year, which is the year 2022, the global growth was 3.4%. So compared to that, the forecast for 2023 is 2.9%. So it's still lower than the figure for 2022 at 3.4%. But the IMF has also mentioned reasons why the global growth forecast has been increased. They say that the reopening in China is paving the way for a faster than expected economic recovery. The IMF also says that inflation might be peaking amid a lower growth in several countries. So those are the primary reasons that the IMF has given for increasing the global growth forecast, inflation and the reopening in China. But of course, they say that if the COVID situation in China goes down again, then that could be a serious risk for the economy yet again. Now, focusing on India, IMF retained India's growth forecast for the current year at 6.1%. And IMF said that India has resilient domestic demand despite external headwinds. Now, this 6.1% makes India the fastest growing country among advanced, emerging and developing economies, according to the IMF's list. And the IMF's chief economist says that India remains a bright spot and that India will account for half of the global growth this year, with China versus just a tenth for the US and Euro area combined. They also say on inflation that 84% of the nations are expected to have lower headline inflation in 2023 as compared to 2022, but the core inflation will still be above pre-pandemic levels in more than 80% of the countries. The global inflation is expected to fall from 8.8% in 2022 to 6.6% in 2023. So this year is likely to be better in terms of inflation compared to last year. And the IMF, of course, still saying that rate hikes and Ukraine war continue to weigh on the economy and create those risks for the future.